I thought I had everything I ever wanted. My dream job, the perfect career, a life that looked successful from the outside. But inside, I felt like I was disappearing. My days didn't belong to me, and somewhere along the way, I stopped feeling like the main character in my own life. So, a year and a half ago, I quit. And on my birthday this year, I gave myself a new challenge. Use 500 days to find a new dream. Not a quick reinvention, not a polished before and after, just the real messy process of learning how to start over slowly. Today is my first check-in on that journey. A little over 1.5 months in. And let me tell you, it hasn't been glamorous. It's been living in dust, wrestling with rest, and stumbling into small rhythms that are teaching me what rebuilding really feels like. In this video, I'll share where I am right now, what those first weeks of starting over has really felt like, and the gentle truths I'm uncovering along the way. If you ever felt the pull to slow down, to rebuild, to make a life that feels more like yours, my hope is that you'll see pictures of your own journey reflected here, and maybe find permission to begin again in your own way. It's been 1.5 months since I quietly began this journey, and a little over 50 days doesn't seem like much, but it has already felt like its own lifetime. And mornings has slowed down, though not in the graceful, romantic way I once imagined. Sometimes I wake with intention. Other days I sit in silence, staring at the walls that hasn't been painted yet, surrounded by boxes, dust, and the half-finished edges of a house that's still becoming. I think that's the truest description of where I am right now, in the middle of a life that's in progress. Nothing is polished, nothing is finished. For the first time in years, that feels okay. When I began this project, 500 days to find a new dream, I knew it wouldn't be about quick wins or flashy before and after transformations. It would be about documenting the slow, sometimes invisible shifts that happen when you rebuild yourself from the inside out. And already, in these early weeks, I've had to let go of so much. I've let go of my old pace, the constant need to prove myself, to fill every hour with productivity, to move fast enough to feel worthy. That pace still calls to me sometimes. The ache of not doing enough lingers like a muscle memory, but I'm learning to notice it, to soften it, to remind myself that speed is not the same as progress. I've also had to let go of certain expectations. The story in my head about how this project would feel. I thought I'd feel inspired right away, like stepping into a brand new chapter. Instead, what I've felt most is resistance. Resistance to rest, resistance to slow down, resistance to facing the quiet without rushing to fill it. There have been mornings when I've been asking myself, what if I don't find a new dream? What if I left everything behind and there's nothing waiting for me on the other side? But in between resistance, I've also been surprised by the tiny joys, about how healing it feels to chop vegetables slowly for dinner, by how grounding it is to sweep the floors of our half-built home, by the way morning sunlight hits the kitchen counter, even if that counter is covered in dust and tools. These small, ordinary moments are teaching me something I never learned in my years of hustle. That life isn't built in leaps, it's built in rhythms. And those rhythms are where the meaning really lies. This is what the first days of starting over actually feels like. They feel raw, unglamorous, tender. They don't look like a comeback story. They look like someone stumbling her way into a slow rhythm and learning, step by step, that soft beginnings are still beginnings. Alongside these early lessons, I've been stretching out a framework of how I want to approach the next 500 days. I've decided to focus on 5 different areas of life, 1 area per quarter. I'll begin the first quarter starting October 1st, and the focus I've chosen is home. Why home? Because home is the place where I live and the place I'm trying to build inside myself. Over the past year, so much has shifted. I have gotten married. My husband and I bought an old house, one we're renovating piece by piece. Right now, it feels like we're living on a construction site. Dust on every surface, room and transition, nothing quite settled, and honestly, that feels like the perfect metaphor for where I am inside as well. So I want to spend this next season tending to home, both the physical space, the walls, the routines, the rituals, and the inner space, the sense of belonging within my own life. I want to learn what it means to create a foundation I can rest in instead of constantly trying to escape from. And maybe this is a good moment to share why I even started the 500 days to find a new dream. A year and a half ago, I quit what I thought was my dream job. It was a high-profile job in politics, the kind of role that looks impressive from the outside. But when I got there, I realized I wasn't in the main character in my own life story anymore. My entire life revolved around something else. There was no space left for me, my creativity, my faith, and my voice. Walking away felt terrifying, but staying felt impossible. And when I finally quit, I promised myself I wouldn't just drift. I wanted to give myself a container, a soft but steady framework to dream again. But this time on my own terms. That's why I started this project on the 19th of August, my birthday. From that day to January 1st, 2027, there are exactly 500 days. My hope is that by the end of it, I have not just achieved something new, but built a life that feels true, balanced, and deeply mine. And this is my very first check-in on that journey. I'll be sharing this once a month or quarterly, so you can walk alongside me in this experiment. I do not have all the answers. I'm figuring it out in real time. But maybe that is the point. You don't have to wait until your life's perfectly figured out before you start living it. You don't have to wait until the house is finished or the new dream is crystal clear. You can begin in the middle, with dust on the floors and questions in your head. That's what I'm learning right now. And if you're in the season of starting over too, maybe this is your reminder. You do not have to rush. You can let it unfold slowly and you can find the road as you go. This first month and a half has been slower than I imagined. Not in the calm, restful way I pictured, but in the messy, uneven way life often unfolds when you try to begin something new. Between my full-time job and the renovation of our house, it's felt a little like I'm constantly stretched thin. My days are full, my evenings are scattered, and sometimes I wonder if I even have the capacity to dream right now. But even in the middle of all of this chaos, I've started to notice small threads of learning weaving themselves throughout my days. They are not polished lessons, and they're not complete yet. They're more like whispers, gentle insights reminding me what this project is really about. The first lesson is that rest doesn't have to come naturally. I used to think of rest as something simple. You just stop, lay down, sleep. But I'm realizing that after years of living in constant motion, true rest feels almost foreign. My body resists it. My mind resists it. Even on nights when I go to bed early, I find myself wide awake, scrolling, overthinking, trying to plan my way into calm. Rest doesn't come naturally when you're built your identity on hustle. And yet in these early days, I'm starting to see exhaustion isn't a weakness. It's a message. A message from my body saying, you cannot carry on like this. So I've been practicing the smallest acts of rest. Letting myself journal prayers before bed, choosing sleep over one more episode, allowing silence to sit with me even when it feels uncomfortable. That isn't easy, but I'm beginning to believe that learning how to rest is one of the most important foundations I can lay in these 500 days. The second lesson is that balance doesn't mean equal weights. Right now, my life is anything but balanced. Our house is a construction site. My job demands most of my weekdays, and this project, this dream I've committed to, often feels like it's squeezed into the cracks. For a while, I felt like I'm failing. How can I rebuild a whole life in an environment where my time is so unsteady? But then I realized balance doesn't have to mean everything gets equal attention. Right now, balance for me looks like noticing what season I'm in and choosing accordingly. This coming quarter, renovation is my main focus. That's where my time and energy go. But that doesn't mean I've abandoned the other parts of my life. Instead, I give them smaller, gentle attention. Through habits, I focus on sleep, prayer, journaling, and eating well. And I try, even if imperfectly, to weave in movement where I can. It's not perfect, and some days I don't manage at all. But the truth is, balance doesn't mean doing everything equally well. It means tending to what matters most in this season, while keeping the other parts of myself alive in a small ways. That shift has been freeing. The third lesson is that small steps are enough. When I first started this project, I thought I needed to find a grand direction right away, a clear dream to chase. But after a month and a half, I still don't know what the final picture will look like. But I'm starting to understand that maybe I'm not supposed to. Instead, I'm learning to pay attention to the small steps. Lighting a candle before I sit down to plan my week, writing a few lines in my journal, even when I don't know what to say, choosing a good meal instead of rushing through a takeout. It's been humbling to admit that I don't have the big answers yet, but it's also strangely comforting, because when I look back, I see that small steps are quietly building momentum. They are shaping something I can't fully see yet. So here I am, 1.5 months into this 500-day journey. I'm tired, yes. I'm pulled in many directions. But I'm also holding these 3 simple truths. That rest is a practice, not a given. That balance is about seasons, not symmetry. And that small steps matter more than I ever thought. These aren't lessons I've mastered. They're lessons I'm still fumbling through. But maybe that's the point of this project. It's not about having it all figured out, but it's about noticing what's true in the moment and choosing to keep going, even when the picture is unfinished. If you are in the season of starting over, maybe you felt this too. The exhaustion, the chaos, the doubt, and maybe, like me, you're finding that progress doesn't have to look like a giant leap. Sometimes it looks like holding on to your habits in the middle of chaos, and sometimes it looks like believing that one small step is enough for today. As I look ahead at this quarter of the project, I've decided to focus on home. Home in both the literal space we're building, the old house we're slowly renovating, and the metaphorical space I'm trying to create within myself. It's about walls and windows, but it's also about rhythms and rituals. It's about creating a place that feels safe enough for me to rest in, but also beautiful enough for me to feel alive in. The next 3 months, I want to focus on home, not just the structure we're renovating, but the foundation I'm laying for a slower, more rooted life for me and my family. So here's the renovation plan. And practically speaking, we're starting with the main floor, which includes the living room, kitchen, bathroom, main bedroom, closet, and the spare bedroom. Right now, the bathroom is our biggest focus, already begun, and I'm really looking forward to finishing it soon. Our hope is by the end of this quarter, the main floor will be in good shape. The floors will be laid, walls will be plastered and painted, the kitchen installed, and the space will finally be ready to hold furniture. Our kitchen is set to arrive in early December. Between now and then, there's a long list of things to get done, but the vision keeps me motivated. I can almost picture us making coffee in that new kitchen, setting the table for dinner, or sitting in a living room that actually feels like ours. It feels far away some days, but it's coming. The progress so far has been slow and steady. If you ever bought an old house, you know what I mean. Every project uncovers another project we thought would be further along by now, but the truth is, everything takes longer than expected. We've had to navigate unexpected delays, like waiting on windows that won't arrive until the end of the year. We have found a workaround, but still, these are the kinds of things that reminds me, building something worthwhile always takes longer than you think. Our vision for the next 3 months is simple. Create a home we can begin to settle into. Not finished, not perfect, just livable, grounding, and ours. I want to see the main floor come to life. I want to move into a kitchen that doesn't belong in the 80s. I want to wear barefoot on new floors and light a candle in a freshly painted living room and finally start placing furniture where it belongs. I'm so excited about layering in character and warmth. I've been dreaming about incorporating vintage finds, some old furniture I've inherited from my great-grandfather, Little treasures that make a space feel soulful and lived in. My hope is that by the time we enter the new year, even if the house isn't finished, it will at least hold us with a sense of belonging. For now though, life is really chaotic. We are living in boxes tucked into a small corner of our living room that will walled off with plastic to keep the dust out. Our current kitchen is barely working. It's a relic from decades past, and our bathroom situation is pieced together at best. Our shower is in the basement in a makeshift washroom. It's functional, but it doesn't feel like home. And yet this is the reality of rebuilding. Before you can settle into a dream, you live in the in-between. You live in dust and mess and half-finished rooms. You live with the inconvenience and discomfort. And maybe that's the most powerful metaphor for it all. Sometimes, before we feel at home in our own lives, we have to live through the mess of rebuilding. So that's where I am right now, a little over 50 days into this 500-day journey. It's been slower than I thought it would be, but maybe that's the point. Starting over doesn't always come with big bursts of momentum. Sometimes it begins quietly in the middle of dust and half-finished rooms, in the middle of learning how to rest, in the middle of not knowing exactly where it's all headed. If you are starting over too, maybe this season isn't about rushing into answers. Maybe it's about building a soft place to land. For me, that place is home, both the house we're renovating and the inner home I'm learning to carry with me. In my first video, I shared the foundation of this project, the story of how I left my old life behind and why I felt the need to begin again. If you haven't seen that yet, it might give you a fuller picture of where this all began, and I leave that right over here. I'm so grateful that you're a part of these early steps, and I would love for you to subscribe to follow along with the journey as it's unfolding in real time. As I move forward, my focus will be on home, on creating a space that feels grounding, and on finding small rituals that make even the unfinished corners feel like they belong to us. Over the next period of time, I'll check back in, not only with updates on how our house is coming together, but also to celebrate planner season and the process of setting up for the new year ahead. Thank you for being here, for witnessing the beginning of this becoming, and I'll see you in the next one.